The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast space. Ambassador Li Hyun walked alone across the polished floor, his black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast against the rainbow of alien forms that filled the tiered seating around him. The chamber could hold 10,000 beings, and today it seemed every seat was occupied. Li Hyun had been Earth's voice in this place for 3 years. He had seen the gradual shift from cautious welcome to growing suspicion. Today, he could feel the hostility in the air like electricity before a storm. The alien delegates whisper among themselves in dozens of languages, their voices creating a low buzz that filled the enormous space. At the center of the chamber stood the Council Prime, a being called Kethmore whose ancient consciousness lived inside a towering mechanical body. Its multiple eyes glowed blue as it surveyed the assembly. When it spoke, its voice boomed through speakers built into the walls. "We gather today to address the human problem," Kethmore announced. The whispers stopped instantly. "For too long, we have watched as this young species spreads across our galaxy like wildfire. They ignore our borders. They build weapons without permission. They terraform worlds using methods we have banned for good reason." Li Hyun took his place at the human platform, a small circular stage that seemed tiny compared to the massive structures that housed the other delegates. He had expected this day would come. Earth's intelligence services had been monitoring council communications for months. They knew what was coming. A delegate from the Vex Collective stood up, its insect-like body clicking as it moved. "Humans expand too fast," it chittered through its translator device. "In 50 of their years, they have claimed more territory than most species claim in 500. They do not ask. They do not negotiate. They simply take." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Li Hyun remained perfectly still, his face showing no emotion. Another delegate rose, this one from the Luminal Empire. Its body was made of pure light, contained in a translucent shell. "The humans build warships," it said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Hundreds of them. Thousands. They say these ships are for protection. But protection from what? We have maintained peace in this galaxy for over a millennium." More voices joined in, each adding to the list of complaints. The humans mined too aggressively. They asked too many questions about ancient technologies. They sent their ships into unexplored regions without council permission. They refused to follow the traditional ways of doing things. Li Hyun listened to it all. He had heard these complaints before, in smaller meetings and private conversations. But today was different. Today, the full weight of galactic civilization was focused on judging humanity. Council Prime Kethmore raised one of its mechanical arms for silence. "The evidence is clear," it declared. "Humanity poses a threat to the stability and order we have worked so hard to maintain. Therefore, the Council has reached a decision." The chamber fell completely silent. Li Hyun could hear his own heartbeat. "Humanity will immediately cease all territorial expansion," Kethmore continued. "All human military vessels will be placed under council oversight. Human colonies will accept cultural integration officers to ensure compliance with galactic standards. You have exactly 60 standard rotations to implement these changes." The mechanical being's eyes focused directly on Li Hyun. "Failure to comply will result in humanity's permanent expulsion from civilized space. Your species will be declared hostile to galactic peace. No council member will trade with you, communicate with you, or provide assistance of any kind." The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Expulsion meant more than just losing trade partnerships. It meant being cut off from the galactic communication networks. It meant having no protection under galactic law. It meant being alone in a universe full of advanced civilizations that would view humanity as an enemy. Li Hyun stood slowly. Around him, thousands of alien eyes watched his every movement. Some delegates leaned forward, expecting him to beg or argue. Others seemed to be waiting for him to accept the terms with gratitude. Instead, Li Hyun simply nodded once, as if Kethmore had just told him the weather forecast. "I will inform my government of the council's decision," he said. His voice was calm and clear, carrying easily through the vast chamber, without any amplification. "However, I should mention that Earth has already anticipated this conversation. A few delegates shifted nervously. The Vex representative's mandibles clicked with confusion. "We have prepared an appropriate response," Li Hyun continued. He gathered the small case containing his diplomatic materials and tucked it under his arm. Earth thanks the Council for making its position so perfectly clear. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the stunned silence that filled the chamber. No pleading, no negotiation, no desperate promises to change. The massive doors closed behind him with a final, resonating boom. In the chamber, thousands of aliens sat in confused silence, trying to understand what had just happened. They had expected fear, anger, or submission. They had received none of those things. What they had received was something far more unsettling. Complete acceptance of their decision, delivered with the calm confidence of a species that had already decided what to do next. 3 months passed after the Council's ultimatum, and something strange was happening across human space. Captain Yun Su of the Corvani Scout Fleet noticed at first during a routine patrol near the Centauri colonies. The human settlements were empty, not destroyed, not damaged, just completely vacant. Yun Su walked to the main street of New Seoul Colony, his boots echoing off the pristine pavement. Every building stood intact. The power still worked. The water system still functioned. But not a single human remained. "Command, this is Scout 7. He spoke into his communicator. "I'm inside the New Seoul Colony. Population records show 8 million inhabitants. Current population is 0. His commander's voice crackled back through static. "Any signs of battle? Evacuation alerts? Emergency broadcasts?" Yun Su looked around at the perfectly maintained buildings. Children's toys sat neatly arranged in a playground. Shops were locked but undamaged. Gardens were watered and tended. "Negative, sir. It's like they just picked up and left. Everything valuable is gone, but nothing was broken." This scene repeated across dozens of human worlds. The massive orbital station above Kepler Prime hung empty in space, its docking bays clean and empty. The famous mining operations in the asteroid belt had vanished entirely, leaving behind only automated beacons that broadcast the same message over and over. This territory is no longer claimed by the Terran Federation. Safe passage guaranteed to peaceful vessels. Intelligence Officer Kim Dae sat in the Council's monitoring station, staring at reports that made no sense. According to their calculations, humanity had somehow moved over 200 billion people without anyone noticing how they did it. "It's impossible," muttered Dr. Zelkov, the Council's chief analyst. The alien's 4 arms waved frantically as he pointed at holographic displays. "You cannot move entire populations across interstellar distances without massive fleet movements. Our sensors should have detected thousands of transport ships. But the sensors had detected nothing unusual. One day the human colonies were thriving centers of activity. The next day they were ghost towns with neatly placed goodbye messages. The precision of it disturbed many council members more than any military threat could have. This wasn't the chaotic evacuation of a panicking civilization. This was planned, organized, and executed with surgical precision. Captain Lee Jean had been among the last humans seen in council space. His cargo vessel was spotted near the frontier world of Arcturus 7, just days before that planet's human population disappeared. When council forces tried to track his ship, they found his final transmission logged in their systems. All civilians evacuated from Sector 7. Infrastructure salvage complete. Beginning final phase. What was the final phase? Nobody knew. Trade Officer Zrikov of the Meridian Syndicate was the first to notice the economic impact. She stood before a gathering of worried merchants and corporate representatives, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. The humans weren't just customers, she explained. They were the backbone of 17 major trade routes. They provided transport services, logistics coordination, and manufacturing capacity that we didn't even realize we depended on. The numbers were staggering. Human shipping companies have been handling 40% of all cargo movement between the outer rim and the core worlds. Human factories have been producing essential components for everything from medical equipment to communication devices. Human banks have been financing operations across dozens of sectors. All of that infrastructure had vanished overnight. But the most disturbing discovery came from military intelligence. Commander Park Sue analyzed classified reports from border regions and found something that chilled him to his core. The pirate attacks have tripled, he reported to the Council Security Committee. Raider activity in the Vegas sector is up 500%. The automated defense platforms guarding the Meridian trade lanes went offline 2 weeks ago. The committee members looked confused. "What does this have to do with the humans?" asked one. Park Sue pulled up a star map covered in red markers indicating hostile activity. Every one of these incidents is in an area that was previously patrolled by human forces. We thought they were just conducting routine training exercises in those regions. We were wrong. The truth was becoming clear. While the Council had been complaining about human expansion and military buildup, human forces have been quietly protecting Council territories from threats that most civilizations didn't even know existed. Deep space monitoring stations detected energy signatures that defied explanation. Massive gravitational distortions appeared and disappeared in regions where human colonies had been. Some scientists suggested the readings indicated the movement of entire star systems, but that was theoretically impossible. Dr. Choi Min analyzed the data for weeks before presenting her conclusions to the Council. The energy pattern suggests folding of space-time on a scale we've never seen before. It's as if they're not just moving through space, but creating new space to move into. The implications were terrifying. Humanity hadn't just left the galaxy. They had apparently developed technology that allowed them to restructure reality itself. As weeks turned to months, the silence from human space became deafening. No responses to diplomatic communications. No trace of their massive fleets. No indication of where 200 billion people had gone. The only evidence of their passage was the slowly growing chaos they left behind. Trade routes collapsed. Frontier worlds went dark. Ancient threats emerged from the void like predators, sensing the absence of an apex predator. The Council had gotten exactly what they demanded. Humanity was no longer expanding in their galaxy. The problem was, the galaxy was discovering it needed humanity far more than humanity had ever needed the galaxy. 6 months after humanity's disappearance, the galaxy began to fall apart like a machine, missing crucial components. Economic analyst Young Min stood before the emergency council session, her hands shaking as she presented numbers that seemed impossible. The holographic display behind her showed trade routes collapsing across the galaxy like dominoes falling in slow motion. Trade volume has dropped by 60%, she announced to the stunned assembly. The Meridian Syndicate economy has crashed completely. The Altarian shipping lanes are operating at 15% capacity. 3 major banking systems have failed. Council Prime, Keth Moore's mechanical form, leaned forward. How is this possible? The humans were only 12% of the galactic population. Young Min's voice was barely a whisper. They weren't just 12% of the population, sir. They were 40% of the logistics network, 30% of the manufacturing base, and 50% of the transportation system. We didn't realize it because they integrated so seamlessly into our economy. The Vex delegate's mandibles clicked nervously. But surely other species can fill these roles. The Corvani tried, Youngmin replied. Their transport fleet attempted to take over the Kepler shipping route. They lost 60% of their ships in the first month. It turns out the humans weren't just moving cargo through that region. They were fighting off something that lives in the dark between the stars. A chill ran through the assembly. For the first time, council members were beginning to understand what they had lost. Dr. Park Hyo had been studying the abandoned human research facilities. His findings painted an even more disturbing picture. He transmitted his report from the empty Titan research station, his voice echoing through the sterile corridors where humanity's greatest minds had worked. The humans were 18 months away from curing the Altarian plague, he reported. Their research was beyond anything we've achieved. But more importantly, they were working on solutions to problems we didn't even know existed. He walked through laboratories filled with equipment that council scientists couldn't understand. This facility was studying something called dimensional parasites. According to their notes, these entities feed on inhabited worlds by slowly draining the life force from entire populations. The humans had developed weapons specifically designed to fight them. The implications were staggering. How many threats had humanity been quietly dealing with while the Council focused on bureaucratic concerns? Military Commander Lee Seo discovered the answer when her fleet responded to a distress call from the Outer Rim. The Zephyrian colony of Haven's Rest had simply gone dark. When her ships arrived, they found a world drained of all life, its cities intact but completely empty of any living thing. "There are no bodies," she reported back to headquarters. "No signs of battle. The population of 12 million just ceased to exist. The only clue is a strange energy reading that our sensors can't identify." Similar reports came flooding in from across the galaxy. Worlds going silent. Colonies disappearing. Ancient automated weapon systems activating after lying dormant for millennia. Pirates emerging from regions of space that had been mysteriously quiet for decades. Captain Kim Woo led a patrol into the Vegan Nebula to investigate increased radar activity. What he found there changed everything the Council thought they knew about their galaxy. "Command, you need to see this," he transmitted as his ship's cameras focused on a massive structure floating in the nebula's depths. "It's some kind of automated factory. It's been producing attack ships for centuries, maybe longer. There are thousands of them." The factory was ancient beyond measure, built by a civilization that had vanished long before the Council existed. For unknown reasons, it had remained dormant for generations. Now it was fully active, churning out sleek, deadly vessels that attacked anything that came near. "How did we never detect this before?" demanded Keth Moore when Kim Woo's report reached the Council. The answer came from recovered human military logs. Captain Yun, he had led regular patrols to the Vegan Nebula for 15 years. Her mission reports, previously dismissed as routine training exercises, revealed the truth. Human forces had been containing the ancient factory, destroying its ships as quickly as they were produced. Without human interference, the factory was free to build its fleet unopposed. Dr. Choi Soo made the most disturbing discovery of all. While analyzing the economic collapse, she found evidence that humanity had been subsidizing galactic civilization without anyone realizing it. "The humans were selling us goods and services below cost," she explained to a horrified trade committee. Their advanced manufacturing techniques allowed them to produce things more cheaply than anyone else. But instead of maximizing profit, they kept prices artificially low to maintain galactic stability. The numbers were shocking. Humanity had been essentially giving away trillions of credits worth of goods and services every year. They had been keeping the galactic economy stable through their generosity, not their greed. Meanwhile, frontier worlds continued to go dark. The Corvani Federation lost 3 entire star systems in a single week. The Luminal Empire's outer territories were under constant attack from raiders using technology that seemed to adapt to every defense. As the months passed, a terrible truth became clear. The galaxy hadn't been containing humanity's dangerous expansion. Humanity had been protecting the galaxy from dangers it never knew existed. Now those dangers were free to hunt without opposition, and galactic civilization was discovering just how fragile it really was without humanity's quiet guardianship. 2 years after humanity's exodus, the galaxy was bleeding civilizations like a wounded animal loses blood. The Galactic Council had shrunk from 400 member worlds to fewer than 200, and those remaining lived in constant fear. Council Prime Keth Moore stood before the emergency assembly, his ancient mechanical body showing signs of strain. Lights that once burned bright now flickered weakly. His voice, once commanding, carried notes of desperation. "We must find them," he declared to the gathered delegates. "Our survival depends on locating humanity and negotiating their return." The search had consumed vast resources. Deep space probe fleets ventured into the galactic void, following energy signatures that led nowhere. Military expeditions explored regions of space that had been empty for millennia, hoping to find some trace of where 200 billion humans had gone. Captain Jung Soo commanded the deepest probe mission yet attempted. His fleet of 12 ships pushed beyond galactic rim, into the dark spaces between star clusters where normal matter grew thin and strange physics took hold. "Command, we're detecting massive gravitational distortions," he reported as his ships approached coordinates that shouldn't exist according to their star charts. "Whatever caused these readings, it's operating on a scale that defies our understanding of engineering." The sensor readings were impossible to interpret. Structures that registered as larger than solar systems, energy outputs that dwarf entire star clusters, and gravitational fields that seemed to fold space itself into impossible geometries. But the humans remained invisible, hidden somewhere beyond the reach of Council technology. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A damaged ship drifted into Council space near the Void Nebula, its hull scarred by energies that no known weapon produced. Inside, rescue teams found a single survivor barely clinging to life. Young-woo was his name, and he was human. Dr. Kim Min worked frantically to save the man's life in the Council's most advanced medical facility. His injuries were unlike anything in the medical databases. Cellular damage that suggested exposure to exotic radiation. Neural patterns that indicate his brain had been stretched across impossible distances. When Young-woo finally regained consciousness, he found himself surrounded by alien medical staff and Council security officers. His first words chilled everyone who heard them. "You're too late." Intelligence Director Lee Hyo conducted the interrogation personally. Young-woo sat calmly in the detention cell, showing no fear despite being the only human in Council space. His ship's data cores had been destroyed, leaving no clue about where he'd come from or where he had been trying to go. Where did they go? Lee Hyo demanded. Your people, your fleets, your entire civilization. Where are they hiding? Young-woo smiled sadly. Hiding? We're not hiding from you. We've moved beyond you. The human's words made no sense, but his medical scans revealed something extraordinary. His cellular structure showed signs of adaptation to environments that couldn't exist in normal space-time. His brain patterns indicated exposure to gravitational fields that would crush any known life form. Dr. Park Seo studied the reading for days before presenting her conclusions to the Council. This man has been living in folded space, she announced to the stunned assembly. His body has adapted to survive in regions where the laws of physics work differently than they do in our universe. Impossible, muttered the Vex representative. No technology can create stable pocket dimensions on the scale needed to house an entire civilization. Young-woo laughed when they told him what the scientists had concluded. You still don't understand, do you? You spent so much time trying to contain us that you never bothered to learn what we were actually capable of. He gestured toward the viewing ports where stars twinkled in patterns that seemed subtly wrong. See those distortions in the star field? Those are the scars we left when we departed. We didn't just move to another galaxy. We created our own space to move into. The implication struck the Council like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't found a new home among distant stars. They had literally carved out a piece of reality and made it their own. The energy readings we've been chasing, Young-woo continued, those are the aftereffects of dimensional engineering. While you were worried about our expansion rate, we were learning to expand the universe itself. Chief Scientist Zelmoth leaned forward urgently. The technology required for such an undertaking. Surely you'll share it? Our civilizations are dying without your people's protection. Young-woo's expression grew cold. Share? You declared us incompatible with galactic civilization. You threatened us with exile and isolation. We simply took your advice and isolated ourselves completely. The Council members shifted uncomfortably. They were beginning to understand the true scope of their mistake. Where we are now, Young-woo said quietly, your fleets cannot follow. Your ambassadors cannot reach us. Your threats cannot touch us. We exist in a realm that we built specifically to be beyond your influence. Kethmore's mechanical form trembled with desperation. Surely some arrangement can be made. The galaxy needs your people's contributions. The galaxy made its choice, Young-woo replied. We respected that choice and acted accordingly. The door to our realm is closed, not because we hate you, but because trust once broken is nearly impossible to rebuild. He looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of a dying galactic civilization. Perhaps in a few centuries, when you've learned to value cooperation over control, we might consider limited contact. But that day is not today. 5 years had passed since humanity's departure, and the once mighty Galactic Council now governed the ruins of what had been a thriving civilization. Where 400 worlds once sent representatives, fewer than 100 remained capable of maintaining contact. The rest had either fallen to the chaos consuming the galaxy or simply gone dark, their fate unknown. Council Prime Kethmore's ancient form flickered more often now. His power systems failing as maintenance became impossible without human-manufactured components. Around him, the great chamber that had once held 10,000 delegates now echoed with emptiness, its vast spaces occupied by perhaps 300 survivors of various species. The quantum transmission arrived without warning on a Tuesday morning, its origin coordinates registering as impossible numbers that made the Council's navigation computers display error messages. The signal came from between galaxies, from a region of space-time that their physics said couldn't support matter, let alone civilization. Dr. Choi Hanna appeared on the main viewing screen with perfect clarity, despite broadcasting across impossible distances. She wore simple civilian clothes rather than a diplomatic uniform, and behind her, through vast windows, structures of unimaginable scale stretched into infinity. Ring worlds the size of solar systems rotated slowly in constructed space. Artificial stars burned with controlled fusion, their light warming gardens that floated freely in the void. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said formally, her voice carrying easily through the chamber speakers. "I am Dr. Choi Hanna, speaking for the Terran Federation from our home in the Infinite Realm." The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence. For 5 years, they had searched the galaxy for any trace of humanity. Now one of them appeared casually on their screens, as if calling from next door. Kethmore activated his communication array with trembling mechanical hands. "Dr. Choi, we've been trying to establish contact for years. The galaxy has suffered greatly in your absence." Hannah's expression remained politely neutral. "Yes, we've been monitoring the situation through our long-range sensors. We're sorry to hear about the difficulties you've experienced." "Sorry." The word came from several delegates at once. The Vex representative stood on shaking legs. "You're a people with a foundation of our civilization. When you left, everything collapsed." "We were never the foundation of your civilization," Hannah replied calmly. "We were simply filling gaps that you chose not to address yourselves. When you declared us incompatible with your vision of galactic order, we respected that decision." Through the screen, glimpses of humanity's new realm were visible. Children played in parks that existed in open space, protected by energy barriers that held atmosphere around floating gardens. Vast factories assembled technologies that made council science look primitive. Ships moved between the ring worlds using propulsion systems that bent space around them like folding paper. "But the trade routes," pleaded the Meridian Syndicate's representative, his voice breaking with desperation. "The protection fleets, the research programs, the manufacturing networks, we need them to survive." Hannah gestured towards something off-screen, and the image expanded to show more humanity's new home. Millions of habitats connected by streams of light, each one capable of housing billions of people. The scale was beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. "You called our expansion aggressive," she said matter-of-factly. "Our military build-up threatening. Our cultural values incompatible. We took your criticisms to heart and removed ourselves entirely from your sphere of influence." Council Prime Kethmore leaned forward, his failing systems sparking with emotional overload. "We were wrong. We see that now. Surely we can reach some kind of accommodation. The galaxy is dying without your contributions." For the first time, Hannah's expression softened slightly. "We bear no malice toward any council species. But trust, once broken, requires extraordinary effort to rebuild. You spent years cataloging our flaws while ignoring our contributions. When we offered cooperation, you demanded submission." The viewing screen showed more of the Infinite Realm. Universities that spanned continents of artificial land, teaching technologies the Council couldn't comprehend. Medical centers where human scientists worked to cure diseases that affected species they would never meet again. Research facilities dedicated to solving problems that existed only in theoretical mathematics. "The door to our realm remains closed," Hannah continued, "not from spite, but from necessity. We built something here that your politics cannot touch, your bureaucracy cannot limit, and your fears cannot destroy." A junior delegate from the Luminal Empire spoke up desperately. "But what about trade? Surely there are resources we could exchange, knowledge we could share. Hannah smiled sadly. What could you offer us? We've learned to create matter from energy, to fold space like origami, to build worlds from pure thought. Our children grow up in a universe where anything is possible because we made it so. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just survived their exile, they had transcended it completely. Perhaps in a few centuries, Hannah said gently, when your civilizations have matured beyond the need to control rather than cooperate, we might discuss limited contact. But that decision will not be made today or tomorrow or in your lifetimes. The transmission began to fade, but her final words rang clearly through the chamber. You told us we didn't belong in your galaxy. We took your advice and made our own. We wish you well in yours. The screen went dark, leaving the council alone with the weight of their catastrophic miscalculation. In the void between galaxies, humanity continued building their infinite paradise, forever beyond the reach of those who had failed to recognize their worth until it was far too late.